Yes, thank you, Chairman. Before I go into the bulk of my comments, I want to thank Sandra Richardson and Attorney Dance for speaking with me about this case and listening to my concerns about this location and helping to bring me up to speed with respect to this hearing. I'd also like to thank Captain Adcock, who has done a tremendous job with his team of police officers in paying attention to an area that has lacked attention for decades and which has resulted in the culmination of activity which has occurred at this particular site. I'd also like to thank Bonnie Smith for your working with Captain Adcock to go to this particular location and to make improvements so that it doesn't attract the same level of activity that's been there. The description of today's hearing states that it's a show cause hearing, not necessarily an update, which on its face was a little deceiving because typically when we have show cause hearings, there's the opportunity for probation or suspension or revocation of a license. This is not the instance here because of the unique manner of which we heard the case this summer. It was not a due cause hearing at that time, but it was really more of an administrative process to transfer a license, of which I opposed. And I was the only one on this board opposing that. And the others voted to approve the license, which makes it difficult for me because now that there's a new owner, I can't hold that old owner accountable for what has occurred on that site. I believe data tells a story based on how you skew that data. And there's some data that's been shared about the number of incidents that has occurred on this site. And I want to go through the numbers that I have from looking at that same data. Between January 1st and 2012 to December 31st of 2012, there have been 23 calls on this site, with the dominant number of those calls being for very significant drug transactions, inclusive of a murder on this site. The following year, that number increased to 25 incidents. For 2013, between January 1st of 2013 to date, there have been 25 incidents and the year is not done. So we can skew the data to just look as to when Captain Adcock visited that site and see a decrease in activity. But if you look at it from a year-to-year basis, as we typically look at data, you see an increase in activity. This is to be a success story for me because we've only had 2 incidents since July. I wonder how many residents in East Cobb would tolerate this in front of their white picket fences. The store didn't call this activity. A police officer, 2 officers observed a male walking in and out of this store. Each time the male would walk towards a grassy area in front of the Marathon to retrieve something, Officer Maxwell located 85 small plastic bags containing marijuana, which was consistent with packaging for distribution. I'm not talking 2 bags. I'm not talking 3, 10, 85 bags in front of this location where families go in and out of every day, inclusive of myself who shop at this plaza, to just go get some gas. And we have 85 bags of marijuana in front. The suspect was arrested for intent to distribute marijuana. This took place even though we have the cameras all around and we have a new security guard there who's an off-duty police officer, et cetera, as was shared. This occurred at noon. This was in the middle of the day. Okay. A month and 2 days later, we have at 8 p.m., Officer Skerr and Officer Mills observed two males loitering in front of the Marathon store. When the officers approached the two males, they attempted to walk away. During a pat-down, Officer Mills located marijuana on one suspect. The suspect was detained in handcuffs and then fled on foot with his handcuffs in front of your homes and your residences. The suspect was apprehended and close to 30 grams of marijuana were found on his person. The suspect was arrested for intent to distribute marijuana. Now, I could take a lot of time to read some of the incidents that I received at this location from yesterday, but I don't want to belabor the point. So what I'm going to do is see if I can have this shown on the camera so that those who are watching this by video can see the most ridiculous crime report I have ever seen for a location. Show each one of those pages and maybe give 1 minute for people who are watching by camera to take a look at the type of reports, the type of calls that we had at this site. It's hard to read. I'll read 3 incidents from off of page 3. The first page, excuse me. I don't know which ones to pick, but I guess we'll observe a trend as I read through each page. January 31st, 2012, Officer R.C. Jones located 36 bags of marijuana in front of the Marathon store. No suspects were located. Matter of fact, maybe it just makes sense to read through all of these since we have time. So we'll go back to January 17, 2012. Viper units were doing surveillance in an unmarked car and observed several drug transactions in front of the Marathon store. Marijuana was found and 2 suspects arrested. July 31, 2012, at 3:21 p.m., Officer R.C. Jones located 36 bags of marijuana in front of the Marathon store. No suspects were located. February 7, 2012, Officer Holt observed 2 suspects standing in front of the Marathon store, and 10 bags of marijuana were located on one of the suspects. February 8, 2012, 5:45 p.m., evening watch officers were involved in an undercover surveillance operation and observed several hand-to-hand drug transactions in front of the Marathon store. 3 suspects were arrested along with 12.3 grams of marijuana seized. March 14, 2012, at 3:59 in the afternoon, Officer Demers and Officer Skerr attempted to stop 2 suspicious males in front of the Marathon store. One male quickly walked into the store, and the other fled on foot. Both suspects were eventually arrested for loitering and obstruction. April 24, 2012, at 3:35 in the afternoon, Viper units observed a suspicious male in front of the Marathon store, and upon making contact, the suspect fled on foot. The suspect was apprehended with several bags of marijuana on his person. May 16, 2012, at 3:54 in the afternoon, Viper units observed 3 suspicious males standing in front of the Marathon store. Upon seeing the patrol vehicle, one of the males ran into the Marathon store. Viper units located the male who had swallowed marijuana and found he had empty bags and scales. Suspect was arrested. May 16, 2012, at 7:47 p.m., Viper units observed a male loitering in front of the Marathon store and made contact. Marijuana was located and the suspect was arrested. May 24, 2012, at midnight, Sergeant Noblack observed 2 males loitering in front of the Marathon store. When approached, the suspect dropped a marijuana cigarette and later admitted to smoking marijuana. No arrests were made. June 12, 2012, at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, Officer Maxwell observed a male make a drug transaction in front of the Marathon store. The suspect fled on foot but was caught and arrested. Several bags of marijuana were located. We're just going to page 2. I have 5 pages. June 27, 2012, Viper units were doing surveillance on the Marathon store and observed 10 to 12 people standing out front. Viper units observed several drug transactions over the course of 1 hour. 2 suspects were arrested. No drugs were located. August 7, 2012, at 8 p.m., Officer Patel observed a male standing in front of the Marathon store. When she walked towards the male, he walked into the Marathon store. 6 small bags of marijuana were located. I almost want to go through these one by one, just so the community can have its voice. And the data could speak for itself, but I'm just going to run down quickly. We have a second page of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 incidents, but I'll draw your attention to November 15, 2012. Units responded to the Marathon store in reference to a person being shot in the chest. 10 days later, Officer R.C. Jones responded to a person shot call at Floyd and Anderson Mill. Upon investigation, it was determined that the victim was shot at 340 Six Flags Drive. Third page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 incidents. But on Christmas of 2012, I'll highlight that event. Officer Hardwick responded to the Marathon store in reference to a person being shot. The victim was followed out of the store after making a purchase and shot in the leg during a robbery attempt. Now we move into 2013, which is also included on that sheet. But we can move to the next page with March 15 through July 1st, 2013. This time frame is significant because we had another store closed down off of Six Flags Drive due to the tremendous work of Captain Adcock and his team out on Six Flags Drive. Officers ran surveillance on a site that's very close to this location, found that there was an open-air drug market and there was collusion with the owners, came and made several arrests, and the site eventually closed, and it's still shuttered to this day. And I'm very sure that the owners of Quick Pick saw the writing on the wall and knew they had to get their act together. And I commend them for wanting to get their act together. But the incidents I read just for 2012 through March of this year don't reflect the several decades of activity that have been occurring on this, a couple of decades of activity that have been occurring on this site since they've owned it. So Captain Adcock comes on the scene, looking at March 15th of 2013 to July of 2013. Officer Patel observed a suspicious male loitering in front of the Marathon store. After making contact with the officer, he was able to locate 3 bags of marijuana. This was after speaking to Captain Adcock. April of this year, Officer Patel observed a male loiter in front of the Marathon over a period of 4 minutes. After contacting the individual, she found that he had been arrested the previous month for loitering in possession of marijuana. 1 suspect arrested. April 20th, Officer Mills and Jones observed a male sitting in a passenger side of a vehicle in front of the Marathon for over 10 minutes. After contacting the individual, he claimed the driver ran out of gas but could not explain why the car was not parked at a gas pump in order to get gas. He was subsequently found to be wanted for entering auto and probation violation and was arrested. After he was arrested, a Marathon employee exited the store and said the driver of the car was possibly selling drugs inside the store, but fled when the officers questioned the vehicle passenger. Which is troubling to me because the store didn't make the call here. The officers observed this car, and then the store comes and tells the officer what they thought the person was doing. Why didn't the store managers make the call? April 23rd, Officer Score observed a suspicious male loitering in front of the Marathon store. After making contact with the suspect officer, he located 26 grams of marijuana inside a bag on the suspect's person. 1 suspect was arrested. In May, Officer Hollingsworth responded to the Marathon to investigate a disorderly woman. Upon arrival, he found the woman inside the store who was upset because she had not been paid for winnings she earned from playing on the store gaming machines. I think in the district we have suspended alcohol licenses for stores with that kind of activity, and we have that here. But all we have is an update. That's all we get is an update here. Okay. Moving on later to May 15th, Officer Walker observed what he believes to be a drug transaction in a car parked in front of the marathon. Subsequent investigation resulted in the arrest of the driver for possession of marijuana. May 24th, Officer Patel located an individual loitering in and around the marathon. Kay advises Patel that the individual commonly sells marijuana at the store, and he wanted Patel to issue a criminal trespass warning. So we have here the person who owns the store knows that somebody commonly sells marijuana at the store. Again, why couldn't this have been proactively addressed? May 25th, 2013, Officer Patel located two individuals loitering in and around the marathon. Both individuals had been contacted previously by Officer Walker while working at part-time at the marathon. Kay advised Patel that the individuals commonly sell marijuana at the store, and he wanted Patel to issue a criminal trespass warning. June 7th, Officer Walker, while working a part-time at the marathon, located an individual who loitered in the store without making a purchase, left and returned 30 minutes later to continue loitering. He was found to have an outstanding warrant and was arrested. This moves us to the hearing that we had to consider transfer of the license. That was approved 4-1 with my objection. So we have two additional incidents that mirror the same type of incidents that have occurred in the past, which I have read through already. Again, one dealing with the 85 small plastic bags of marijuana, and another person who was arrested for marijuana possession. But this is a success story. It's very troubling, and I realize there's very little I could do. So what I wanted to do today was to give voice to those who don't have a voice in this hearing, which are those who live in this area who have had to deal with these calls that have been made just since January of 2012. In a short amount of time that the agenda has been prepared, I've received 3 comments from the community. One gentleman who's a recent college graduate shares, as a lifelong resident of the South Cobb area, I urge you to vote against their license. That store, since I have been little, has been a meeting point for thugs and drug dealers. Customers get harassed by drug pushers, prostitutes lurking in broad day, and the store owners allow all this activity. They see it and condone it. They are a major cover for the dealers in the area. The store needs to be closed. Another comment. I won't read all the context, but it says there is no need to issue an alcohol license to this Marathon gas station formerly operating with one as Quick Pick food store. They serve as enablers of alcoholism amongst our neighbors who live off of Six Flags Drive, who wish to continue drinking despite having lost their driver's license due to DUIs as a consequence of their disease. Another comment. We are opposed to the renewal of liquor license for this establishment. In our effort to improve the quality of life in our South Cobb community, we will ask that you deny this application. In the past, it has been a foregone conclusion that a liquor license would renew. Now is an opportunity to reconsider the makeup and ratio of liquor licenses along the stretch of Six Flags. We oppose for several other reasons as well. Their lack of benefits to the overall community. This store lacks employment opportunity for people of our community. They are not involved in our schools or support the education of our children, especially with alcohol awareness programs. They are not involved with upkeep of our community, litter cleanup, beautification, and our community supports their business, yet their give back is limited, if at all. Last month, I was taking my children to get their hair cut in the city of Austell. They don't know my position in there. I was listening to the guys who were cutting my children's hair, and they were talking about the wild times they used to have off of Six Flags Drive. Then they started talking about the marathon and speaking about what they used to do in and around the marathon and what goes on over there. And I just casually observed, but took it very much to heart. And to know if I could be here in this very coincidental meeting and hear this discussion about Six Flags Drive, then the issues of this site are probably rampant. I appreciate all the work that you're doing to become a better actor off of Six Flags Drive. It needs to continue, but I don't want to see any drug-related incidents. We have had cases come before this board where there have been 2 or 3 incidents that have occurred, and we've seen licenses suspended or a significant probationary period. Looking at all of the data that we have before us of what has occurred at this site and what we have the ability to do here today, which is just listen and not to take any corrective action to address the issues, is disconcerting and I think should be very frustrating to other business owners in South Cobb who have had their licenses suspended or revoked for having much less activity on this site. When we speak about Six Flags in Cobb County, it's almost a joke when we talk about redevelopment and trying to improve that area, because Six Flags has a very bad reputation. I assert that it is because of your location that it does. And this needs to, and the food mart is not there. That was the second bad actor. But when I first moved to the Six Flags Drive area, it is the marathon that has been continually mentioned as the bad actor. This needs to absolutely change. If we can remove and punish other store owners for 3 incidents, best believe I don't want to see more than 3 next year, especially without you taking proactive steps to be involved in this site. I thank the board for you listening, and for those who are watching by tape and listening to all I had to share. I believe it was very important to read through the record so that we all have an understanding of what's been going on. And again, I believe that the community deserves its voice today in this hearing. So I thank you, Chairman, for this opportunity. And I thank you for the Business License Division for giving the opportunity for us to have this status update today.